Hey everybody, this is Perch. Um, it's not often I get mails responding to my messages, or my videos which are responding to mail. Anyway, it's all very convoluted, and I generally don't do them because it's just the time gap is too much of a problem. Somebody writes me a mail, I answer it. Somebody responds. We could talk about a 6 month gap there easily. So anyway, sorry about that. But let's see what we got. It says a response to my question. So let's read it. It says, "Dear Perch Perchington Esquire." I was never entirely sure what the Esquire was. That I guess that sounded impressive at one point to somebody. But I mean, people did that unironically. Anyway, it says, "Good day to you. I hope you and your family are doing well. I love your channel, and for the most part, agree with your takes. I'm a longtime listener and was honored to have you do a video about a question I had about adult comics. I'm writing because I listened to a recent video where you asked what it's going to take for there to be a story written today to be remembered fondly in 20 years. Or that's what I got from the video. I don't remember the exact quote, but it did give me a think, and I have a response. I'm sad to say that in my opinion, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it has anything to do with the culture war. I don't think it'll ever happen again because the fact is that when you and I were younger, I'm going to assume you were a 70s child like me, there just wasn't the distractions that there are today. Yes, we had movies and music, but what we didn't have was Xbox and smartphones and streaming services. I mean, we started getting in the late 70s and 80s, video gaming at least, but it was after reading was an integrated thing with us. Ingrained thing with us. It didn't divide our attention or our imagination so much, at least in my own opinion. When I was a kid in the 70s, I had school, the small theater, and the library. I also had comics. I would read and I would reread them. I couldn't stream a movie 15 times I wanted to. I could pay to see the movie more than once. I could also reread my comics. They were my escape. There were less escapes then. The writers of today were raised on a lot more distractions than we were. I think it has an effect on their imagination. Hell, when I was in the Navy during the 90s, we still had pagers for when we stood duty. I believe that our generation was the last one to truly have many great stories to look back on. We're fortunate for that. I don't think anything, barring an apocalypse and restart for humanity, will bring about another age of storytelling like the one we grew up in. It's not me trying to be funny. It's me saying modern distractions we have today would have to be gone for it to be as great. I hope I sounded somewhat rational. Look forward to your reply. Thank you very much for the mail, and sounded very rational. I like. I do. I'll make the cheap joke out of all this, and that's this idea that there is an apocalypse, that there is some kind of nuclear disaster, and humanity is reset, and it's just it's a real disaster. But somewhere out there in a crummy Manhattan apartment, they are making comic books. That's comic books like cockroaches will survive somehow, and maybe be better for it. Look, jokes aside, I think I don't know. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I don't think it's as binary as just there are distractions and then therefore we're not going to consume media the same way. I think it's a little deeper than that. I think you probably make a good point about a lot of the writers today, and probably artists too in a different manner, have some cheat codes that they didn't have back in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. And I think that that's probably hurt storytelling a little bit. It is easy if you're an artist to use a digital platform where you could render and re-render and re-render a panel to get it looking just the way you want. And I know this, I'm doing it myself. And it dawned on me a while back as I was doing this that I was actually taking away some of the craft, by doing this. Now, comics are a commercial form of art. The idea is to sell comics. So the idea of it being, art like Rembrandt or Michelangelo it's very different now. Its purpose, despite what some people might say, is to sell copies. That is it. It is a commercial, silo of work. And in such, the kind of production line mentality wins. I hate to say this, what I'm about to say, but it is why AI art probably will gain a foothold in comics at some point and do well. I didn't believe that for a long time, but if you look at comics as a fully commercial enterprise, AI and robots cranking this stuff out is going to be perfectly acceptable to the big corporations, to Marvel and DC. It may not be to the readers, but if the readers are getting an on-time monthly book and the art style, looks severely better than what AI. I mean, AI is not anywhere close to doing this today. But it's likely to take hold, which will be a shame, be a deep shame. But that's ultimately what commercial art is about. But if you think about a regular artist being able to redraw the panel, it means they in some cases lose parts of the skill and the habit. You've heard us talk to Brett Booth, and you've heard us talk to Ben Templesmith, and you've heard us talk to Sean Murphy and plenty of artists on this channel. And many of them have a love for the craft and skills that get worked on. Brett Booth said something a long time ago. During this interview, which is years ago, but it sticks in my head and I think about it quite often, where he talked about, learning the cheats. In order to make the art he makes on a schedule, there's some cheats involved. Now, he doesn't mean AI. He means, ways of drawing. He means, ways to compose the page in a manner that, is not as time consuming, that works out. He's talking about something a little different than, technology hacks or technology cheats. But if you didn't have that quick ability to trace or to sample or to, render something or grab something from a vast image library and then bring it in and kind of purpose it into your art, it forced you to learn certain things, both skills and cheats. For writers, if they are looking at, that imagination of wanting to craft a big story, today they have, millions of hours of entertainment at their fingertips. If they're trying to think of I want to come up with a big action scene, I know I'll just quickly pull up Heat on Netflix and rewatch that cool action scene, or, it's just very easy to sample. And I do think it probably takes away from the creativity aspect of everything. In fact, I don't think, I'm positive it does. And for the readers, you're right, there are a lot of distractions. I'm researching something right now around why as the technology gets better and better and better, and it does, you've got a processor and a supercomputer in your pocket with your cell phone that is far more powerful than what people had with gaming desktops and laptops 20 years ago. And so, but in turn with that, some of the most popular, most active games are things like, Pokemon Go, or those basic puzzle games you see ads for, or kind of cheap casino games. The idea of the time killer type casual game is powerful. There's lots of videos you can go to with what they're doing to Spider-Man 2, or is J.K. Rowling a TERF, and how does that mean for the Hogwarts Legacy game that she's done, or and you can get it. You're thinking about console games, but if you think about the pure hours and investment spent in, it's casual games. Those are the ones that are getting people, and those are the ones that are graphically very, very limited and skill very limited. But what they do is eat up massive amounts of your time in places where, your brain could use a rest. So, you might go home and turn on, a console and play some immersive game. But if you're playing kind of casual mobile games all the time, when you're driving, when you're at a grocery store, when you're in the mall, Pokemon encourages you to go out in the world and play this, for lack of a better word, graphically strong version of paper toss. And it basically takes moments where you're outside and, your mind might go to creative things or think back on a story you read or get excited about a cliffhanger in a comic book or a show or whatever it happens to be. And it redirects that to focus on the game itself. And I think there's probably something fairly profound there. I'd love for there to be some comics out there that we remember for 20 years, and I'm sure there will be. I don't think we're done. But I think rather than those come from a commercial backing, because remember, Marvel and DC in the 70s, a lot of the comics we say we love and remember forever, the Dark Phoenix saga, its purpose was to make money. It was a commercial story. It wasn't fine art for the sake of doing something powerful with that. It was intended to have a return, and it did. But the medium allowed for that then, and like you said, the mail, our imaginations allowed for it then. We were able to consume that media, not just how it was intended, but with a lot of additional thought. It's just like memorizing, math or history or somebody's name. Repetition winds up getting it there. And if comics are consumed like junk food where you're half paying attention, it's not going to stick. And if it doesn't stick, you're not going to remember it. Anyway, it's deep email. How about you? What do you think? Is there any merit to all this? And how do you think the rise of technology and other things has impacted comics? Now, granted, by the way, digital tools and being able to submit scripts and draw, digitally without paper and everything else and being able to correct those mistakes definitely has saved a lot of time. It's definitely more convenient. I definitely think it leads to the natural evolution of comics into an AI commercial product, unfortunately. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course, and thanks for listening.